Marty's garden is all about compost worms, composting, farming worms indoors and out, and growing some of the most awesome food around. You can learn how by clicking the subscribe button and hitting the bell so you don't miss any of my videos. Alright guys, got some great stuff going on here. Karen's on the camera, and underneath all this is the worms. And so Karen will step back with the camera and try and get this. This is really something that I don't do very often. Well, generally I'm on my own, so I can't film at the same time. So we got Karen off from school today, being a Sunday, and yeah, we're into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this compost area. So a lot of this has been eaten by the worms. There's a lot of castings in here and some unfinished material, and it's going to go onto the pile over here, which I'm working on, and then some onto here, because I want the worms to be working through from the back into this material. And as it's getting colder, they'll be going into this because it's nice and insulated. This is the coffee and the sawdust, and they'll eat through that, and it will hold the moisture, and they'll move through underneath and stay warm and keep the right moisture and things. So this is too cold, this area here now, so we're going to start moving it across, and I'll show you. We'll dig some of the worms and put it into the wheelbarrow here. So let's see, I think the end part here, there won't be too much, so we won't muck around too much. We'll get straight into finding where these worms are, because they migrate. They've been migrating out of here into this area, so there mightn't be huge amounts, but they'll be in here. As you can see, there's some young ones there, and we're just going to drop them in to here. When I'm feeding into this zone here, Karen, come in closer with the camera.
What?
You can come in closer with the camera.
How? This is a big massive pile.
You just walk in around that way, or you can walk in around the other way. You should have wore your gumboots.
No, I don't have gum boots.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry. So, if you come around and have a good look, she's stepping through. She's got her thongs on, but don't worry about that, guys. Just keep coming through. I want you to film onto this side here. You can see that when I push, you can see that's got an edge on it. Can you see that edge on there, Karen?
No.
That's all castings. This was all pretty much wood chip. And look at it, it's all just broken down now. Look, there's a worm going, escaping there. Nice and healthy too. Little tiger worm. Beautiful. Alright, so we're going to dig through here and see what we've got. Please look at that. Quick, get that on camera, Karen.
What is it?
All the worms. Look, I'm trying to show everyone the worms that are in here.
They look more like fish wrigglers.
Yeah, they call them red wrigglers. So let's have a look and we'll see. Look, here they are. Look, don't move in too fast with the camera. It needs to focus on.
I didn't see any worms.
There.
Oh, noodles. Yum.
Yeah, so we're going to move them across over this area over here, and as you can see, this is where they all are, right? So I'm just going to grab this top surface here where they're feeding and move them over to this spot in the center here. There's a lot of cow manure, mushroom, wood chip, all different types of things in here, and they're going to just love it being in this area. Alright, so we're moving down through the row here, and we can see the worms. Look at them all. And if I turn this over, you can see they're feeding on this material, which is the wood chip and the coffee. It's quite cold. I should have my thermometer out here to really check, but to me that feels like about 10 degrees, something like that. Just having a guess, really. Yeah, so they're all there. So I'm going to move them over into this zone here, and then I'll move to this side and this side. And look at this one, look. That's a beauty. I'm pretty happy with that. And as I move them across here, I will then harvest all this where they haven't gone down deep, throw it onto these sides, because there's still going to be some worms in there. and then we'll go through, and that will move all that biology through that pile and this pile here, and it will become alive with all the microbes and fungi and different things, and that's really what we want. That's how I'm creating my artisan compost here that goes out to the public. Now, as I said, I generally don't get to film stuff like this because I'm on my own most of the time to do it. So this is something that if you're doing at home, you can do it in a very small space as well. You don't have to have a big area like me. You can have your small area at the back where you've got your worms covered over with something like this, and you've got them in your compost area, and then as your compost is completing, just allow them to move through the pile. As long as you've got about a square metre, that's pretty much enough to do something like this, because a square metre will keep warm in the cooler times, and it gets hot when it's breaking down. So we just got to keep an eye on the heat, and the worms will stay on the outside where it's moist and cooler, and then when it's cold they go into the centre where it's hot because it's breaking down, and get the right thermal mass that they're after, and they feed. They come up and down with the rain and all that type of stuff. So a natural, that's what they are, composting worms. So we just want to do it naturally, just compost these guys naturally. And I'm going to throw some in here because they're going to move into this coffee and start feeding on that coffee. So what do you think of that, guys? Pretty cool, eh? Like, it's a bit hard, a bit tricky, sort of like directing current, looking for worms, working, getting it all on film at the same time. So what I want to do is give you a bit of an idea of what I'm actually doing here, because some of you might be new to this channel and haven't watched the rest of the videos for the outdoor worm farming project. So if you haven't seen that, make sure you go and check out those videos so you start getting an idea of how I'm making this compost outside. And it's really, really great compost, and the locals actually just come in their flocks when I've got it, and it's gone. It's always gone. I never have enough, actually. I've got to keep enough for myself. All right, so what I'm doing is I've got 4 stages. So I've got a beginning stage, a mid stage, a nearly to the end stage, and a harvest stage. And what I'm doing at the moment is I'm moving all the worms out of the cooler zone where they've been in a long worm windrow, out of the sun, keeping cool. And now that it's gotten cold, I've got to move all those eggs and all those worms and transfer them to the middle pile, the one that's warming, still cooking inside a little bit. It's nearly finished cooking, but it's still warm, and that's keeping those worms warm through the night and into the cool days. And all the eggs that are transferred across and all that biology and everything staying alive, which is just absolutely wonderful. That's what I want to do. I want to keep all those microorganisms alive. And I want the eggs to hatch, well, the cocoons to hatch, right? So they don't go into diapause, which is a thing in winter when they shut down and wait for to warm up and then shoot out again. So I want more worms going through. Now, you're probably wondering what happens, right? Well, what happens is that I do run out of worms. And you're going, Marty, he runs out of worms. So how's he going to keep making it? Well, you've got to have backup worm farms, guys. Even if you're doing the square metre thing, like I said, you are going to lose them. They're going to migrate. They're going to do all types of stuff unless they're breeding profusely in your compost pile. And I do get them at times doing that. But I find near this time now, I'm going to start losing some and they'll back off a bit. So what I'm going to do is I get from my plastic worm farms that I keep going over the winter time, and then I repopulate back through. And then spring, when it comes into spring, the worms that are left in the plastic worm farm just explode again, because it's that time of year for more worms. Alright, so did you enjoy that video, guys? If you did, make sure you give me a thumbs up down below. Leave a comment to say g'day if you've got any questions. We got the newsletter coming out once a week and it's exploding. We've got 300 members in there now. Thanks, guys, everyone, for signing up. We've had 2 newsletters coming out. The 3rd one will come out next week. We got the live show with Emily coming up Thursday morning. It's 10 a.m. Sydney, Australia time, and I think 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that is gonna be just rocking. Alright, I'm Marty Ware from the Marty's Garden Show. Have a great day, happy gardening and worm farming. We'll see you at the next video real soon. EBOOK's on the way. Bye for now.